Okay, so at any rate, so I use PowerPoint, I use Moodle, I use the Smartboard, I use the streaming software, that doesn't really matter to you. And then I'd also like to go over the syllabus today, so let's see if we can get that loaded. Okay, so I don't actually print them just because why would we waste the paper if it's important to you to print it, have at it, but always, always, always print double-sided, please, so that you don't waste paper. At any rate, can everybody see this? Is it blown up big enough? Yep. So this is managerial accounting. I got this book was, yours doesn't look like mine because I've got the whole book. You guys have a customized book, right? Yeah. So they're in the bookstore?
Yep.
Yep. And what are they setting you back?
125.
Right. So this full book was like $280. And we only used 12 of the chapters. So I'm like, I mean, that's just so unacceptable to me. I'm like, how can I pull out just the chapters we need and turns out you can do that. You can make a custom book. So that's what that is, just the chapters that we're using. So I revised the whole class in May 2014. It's actually exactly a replica of the main campus Accounting 202 course, although I will be honest, I took out a chapter called Differential Accounting that I've never seen in practice, totally confuses students and pressures us time-wise. So, don't tell them over there, but you're missing a chapter. You need to have gone through financial accounting, obviously, to be in here. Prerequisite, here's my name and my email, my phone number. My office is just right down at the end of this hall. And my technical office hours are Monday and Wednesday, 12 to 1. But we all post our schedules on our door. And aside from when I'm in class, I'm basically here. I'm not an early morning person, but I'm here pretty much every afternoon, after classes. And so I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So if you need something, let me know. The other thing is that I will tell you about office hours is if you're struggling with a concept, and I've taught long enough where I can see it in people's eyes like they're not really with me, but you need to come to me and say, can we go over one more of these flexible budgeting calculations? I'm not quite there. So if you're feeling like you're not quite grasping something, I can make these problems up till the cows come home. So come in and just say, I really just need to go through this one-on-one with you. Okay? And don't be intimidated about doing that. So relationship to program, we're going to talk about the difference today between managerial and financial. Your course description, I went over Moodle. Student performance outcomes, we have to have these in our syllabus, and what these are is when you come out of this class, these are the things that you should be able to do. And in order to ascertain that, you can be pretty much guaranteed that these are the things that I'm going to assess you on, I test you on. So this is, when you're done, number 10, you're going to be able to use capital budgeting to determine what long-term investment is most strategically viable for your company. So you have no idea what any of that means right now, but you will. And at the end of the class, I should be able to say to you, calculate net present value, calculate internal rate of return, and you will recognize those as capital budgeting techniques. So for course resources, all you need is the book. Homework, I'll go through that in a second. Again, this is a small, cozy class. I'm lenient about a lot of things, but I'm not really lenient about late homework. And the reason being is that there's a lot of, particularly at Missoula College, there's a lot of stories, folks, single parents and working 40 hours a week, and there's a lot going on. But it's a lot to manage and make sure that you're keeping a level playing field if you let some people, turn in late homework and not others. So I'm really pretty status quo about it. Like, you need to give me the homework. I'll let you give it to me to the end of business on the day it's due. So if we come in here and you're like, oh, I'm not quite done, can you put it in my box by 2 or 3? Sure. But like tomorrow's not going to work. So I'm pretty strict about that. Use of personal electronic devices, let's just say that just put them away for 50 minutes. It's my personal pet peeve. Academic honesty, obviously you need to comply with the student conduct code. Got a link here. It says things like, don't cheat, do your own work, have high ethical and moral standards, blah, blah, blah. Students with disabilities, if you have anything going on, whether or not you've been to DSS, make sure to come and see me. I will do everything I can to accommodate you. I probably will send you to DSS first because we need to get some documentation. You need extra testing time. You need to test by yourself. You need somebody to take notes for you. You're hearing impaired. Whatever the issue is, please let us know. Here's my grading scale, and this is a pretty standard accounting class. You have 4 tests, they're worth 100 points each, and then you've got homework. And that's pretty much it. This is not really a discussion class. I'm not facilitating any sort of group projects. A lot of you have had sustainability from me. This is just a class where I kind of deliver content, and you struggle to learn it, and then I test you. It's pretty much how that works. And I do a straight 90, 80, 70, 60 grading scale. I don't do pluses or minuses. And here's your chapters. And you can see that, let me just blow this up just a little bit more so that we can all make sure we understand this. Zoom. Let's go up to 160. So the homework, you can see like for chapter 2, I want you to do 2-2, 2-4, 2-6, 2-11, 2-12, but then in bold I say 223 is due for 10 points. So that's kind of what I was talking about. I'll assign a series for each chapter that we go over every single piece of homework I assign. And that, all those are not for points. Those are your pedagogical tools. That's how I help you learn the concepts. Then the next day, the one for points will be due. So you get the day of practice where we all go through everything, you have an opportunity to ask tons of questions, blah, blah, blah. I open up all the solutions so that if you want to do more and check them, that's cool too. And then that 2-23 will be due for 10 points. We'll go over that together. You'll turn it in. I actually just have you grade your own stuff. You turn it in, and that's what I input into Moodle. That's where you get your points. Okay. And that is about all I know about that. That's the syllabus. I have a daily plan, so I know what we're doing every day all semester. I can just give you a couple dates, which always sounds kind of funny saying the first day of class, but obviously we don't have any class next Monday's Labor Day, right? So we're off. We do not have class on Friday the 16th of September or Monday the 19th of September. So I'm going to be gone. Other than that, everything's status quo. I think the other class day we miss is November 11th, is Veterans Day. Yeah. So because of this, the days that I'm going to be gone, missing those 2 days of class and Veterans Day, that's why I pulled out that chapter 12, because otherwise, really, these are not concepts you want shoved down your throat. You want to have some time to ingest them and work through them. So, okay. So what I'd like you to do for Wednesday is read chapter 1, and I'm going to just talk about it now. Let's see, so we get out of here at 10:50. So 24 minutes, that's, 20 minutes, yeah. So let's just go ahead and spend a couple minutes sort of trying to wrap our heads around what managerial accounting actually is. So the way that I'd like to approach this is just taking a look at some different aspects and trying to see if we can flesh out what we think the differences are between these two kinds of accounting. So what kinds of folks use financial accounting records?
Creditors, stockholders.
Creditors. Stockholders, what did you say, Sam?
I said basically external people,
Yeah,
people outside the company.
Yeah. One more time.
Auditors.
Yeah.
Tax preparers.
Mm-hmm. are the shareholders, your consumers. I don't know about y'all, but if I'm looking for a new job, are you concerned with the performance of the company you're going to work for? So you don't need to write all this down. Actually, Sammy kind of synthesis of it. It's external users, right? Totally different in managerial.
Internal.
This is used by your management team. This is used by your planning committees. This is used by your segment managers. And what I mean by that is, say that I'm Macy's and I've got stores in 86 markets. That might be a segment. Or a segment might be the whole Northwest I deal with Chevrolet franchises. Or a segment might be, I'm Dell and my segment is institutional personal computers, right? So segments can be products, regions, areas, focuses. But the point is that all the information or most of the information in managerial reports are very sensitive to a proprietary. You don't want outside people knowing that information because it talks about, how do we cost our product? How do we price our product? How do we deal with competitive pressures? You don't want, people outside your company to know that. So all the reports that we're going to be preparing and the data we're going to be looking at is primarily used for internal purposes. Time focus. So this is a little bit of a funny descriptor. Financial reports deal with what time period? Yep. Right? You guys have all been through financial accounting. We spend a lot of time reporting on what happened. Managerial accounting reports are almost all prospective. We're looking, it's called pro forma or projecting or prospective. What do we think based on this? How do we use that to project what's happening next and to manage our business? Right? So historical reports compile, and prospective or pro forma or projected statements help us ascertain what could be happening next and how we're going to manage it. Financial accounts, verifiability. How do we verify the data in our financial reports? Right? An independent third party comes in. My husband's the CFO for the youth homes, right? So they have homes where kids come in when they can't live in their own homes. And his year end is June 30th. And right now he's going through an audit, which they do every year. And the auditors just gave him on Friday something called a pick list, which means he's got to go find all these documents, physically pick them out. Some of them are digital, of course, now too. Present it to the auditors, and then they're going to go verify that those documents are clearly represented in his financial statements, right? That gives them an indication that if this percentage of them are done correctly, we've got to assume the rest of them are done correctly. So, right, it's audited, it's verified, independent third parties, right? What about managerial reports? Can you really verify this? I mean, I can project what the next year of my life's going to look like, right? I'm taking my family to Panama for Christmas. Well, that's 4 months away. We've got the tickets. We know where we're going. We know what we're doing. But you know what? A lot of things can happen in 4 months. How can I verify we're actually going to make that trip? I can't. I mean, God willing, but who knows, right? So there really isn't verification on managerial reports. So what do you think that, first off, how comfortable does that make you as a student that you're going to be doing work that's not verifiable, right? Particularly as accountants. Most of the reason those of us that are studying accounting is because we like detail. We like things to balance. We like things to reconcile. Accountants by nature don't tend to be tremendously creative people. We like stuff to kind of like flesh out. So what's tough is, I shouldn't say not possible, but most of this is conjecture. So what's your check then? If you're preparing, if I'm asking you to prepare things that you don't have any way of saying like, oh, do my assets equal my liabilities plus equity? What's your baseline check for your work? You've gotta look at your work for reasonableness. So if I'm telling you, last year, the University of Montana had, we got research grants of $81 million, and you're in charge of the foundation, and you're doing some projections, and you set up your spreadsheet, and you put in some percentages, and da-da-da-da-da, and your spreadsheet spits out a number that next year we're gonna have $296 million of R&D grants. Is that reasonable? No, but students, I will tell you, hand stuff into me all the time that look like that. And there isn't like some formula to do a check for reasonableness, but it's part of it is what happened last year. So you start with this, right, with the history, and then you look at your work and say, does this flesh out? Does this make sense, right? When I do income tax returns, I've done your income tax return for the last 8 years, and your adjusted gross income is always between $40,000 and $48,000. And then I plug in all your data for this year, and you made $360,000. Huh? Did you change jobs? I mean, what's happened here? Well, I added one too many zeros on his W-2, and I mean, but I'll have students that'll hand that in. It's like, no, he works at Hilton. He probably didn't make $360,000 in Missoula last year, right? So that's what I'm kind of being facetious, but not really. You have to look at your work for reasonableness. And that's one of the #1 complaints that we get from employers, from graduates from this program. Technically competent, good work ethic, show up, play well in the sandbox, all those things. But it's like that inability to review your own work for reasonableness. So just keep that in the back of your head. Precision versus timeliness. So this is a sort of an either-or thing. And one is one and one is the other. So with financial accounting, do you think precision or timeliness is more critical? So for example, like right now, I was sharing with you that Dan, my husband's year-end finalized on June 30th, and they just got the pick list from the auditors. So by the time that whole process is through, his financial statements for the prior fiscal year probably won't be finalized till sometime in October. Okay. So in the nonprofit world, all of his grant cycles recognize that. So you apply for grants then usually like in October and November to be rewarded for the next year, right? So it's taking kind of a long time to make sure these things are precise, right? What do you think is important if you're trying to run your business? Yeah. So this, is there an E in here?
Yes.
Thank you. That's one thing about smart words. You really don't get away with saying anything you don't want recorded. Pretend there was a kindergartner in the room, Lisa, or misspelling things. So that's my way of keeping my language nice and clean. Pretend somebody had their kid with them. So timeliness is critical here because you need those reports to make decisions to run your business. And it's not helpful if you've got a lot of competitive pressure and it takes your managerial accountant, 3 months to get you data on the cost structure of your product, right? Because by then you've lost your market share and it's all over. And subject, I don't really know what that means. Let's just go to rules and I'll have to think about that one. What the heck did I mean there? Okay, rules. Huh?
In the book it has company-wide reports versus segment reports.
Oh, thank you. Right. So subject scope, I guess, would be a better word. So yeah, generally financial statements are for the entire company. And managerial accounting reports are targeted into something really specific, and we call that, I think I just described that earlier, it's called segmentation. How do I segment my business? In the collegiate environment, our segmentation is by our programs. What's your full-time enrollment by program, right? Or our segmentation might be non-traditional students versus traditional students. Or our segmentation might be 12 credits is FTE, full-time equivalent, less than 12 credits. So that's how we analyze our business. Those are examples of segmentation. So reports aren't really valuable in managerial accounting when they just, like if they throw Missoula College in with, the law school and, the pre-med program, that's not helpful for us to analyze our business, is it? We need to really dial in and say, like right here in this classroom, we've got 2 of the 6 people, or 2 of the 7 people going for their bachelor's. That's good information for us, right? That's helpful for recruiting and planning and staffing. So you get the point. So our reports in managerial accounting usually tend to segment something that's helpful. What rules do we comply with to prepare our financial statements? And what does that stand for?
Generally accepted accounting principles.
Yep. Where do these come from? Who makes them?
Board, right?
The board, yep. You remember what they're called?
I am another
It is another acronym. And you know what? I'm not really that big on acronyms, but it's kind of like, if you're studying theology, it's important to know there's a Quran and a Bible and a Bhagavad Gita, right? In accounting, we use GAAP. That's our Bible. And it comes from the Financial Accounting Standards Board, which is essentially 7 white guys appointed by the Securities and Exchange Commission to make sure that the rules are precise and that auditors can verify them and that they accurately reflect historical performance. So we have a ton of rules, right? It's not like, oh, I wonder how I should treat this liability. It's like, is it, due within 12 months or due after 12 months? Well, that's current versus long-term, right? So we know exactly how to handle it. With managerial accounting, there's really no rules, and that's, another thing that students really struggle with is I'll say present this data, and you're like, well, how do I do that? It's like, well, how do you think it's going to be most understandable? How do you think that your reader or your audience is going to most easily extract data from that to make good decisions, right? So students don't like that. Accounting students really don't like that. They want the template. They want here's how you line it out, tab, enter. But the onus is going to be on you. I need to pick this thing up. I need to see a title. I need to see what time period it pertains to. I need to see accurate column headings and row titles. And I need to be able to go and say, exactly what's happening, based upon the way you presented the information. If you've made assumptions, I want to see those lined out. Is it time?
Yeah, got 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. Requirements. I don't really know what that means either. What does it say in our book?
Mandatory external reports
Yeah, okay. That just,
and no reports.
yeah, that just emphasizes that. Okay. You can see I don't spend a lot of time reading the book myself. I more just talk. Okay. So the only other thing that I really want to pull out of this, and I do want you to read the chapter, and I do want you to pay attention to a couple concepts that you may or may not have heard in Accounting 102 from Tim. But one of them is lean production. Anybody have a feel for what that is? Lean production. Yeah, just-in-time manufacturing, exactly. Not carrying a lot of inventory. I was just talking to a guy up at the lake yesterday who manages Carl Tyler Chevrolet, and he was talking about, and actually another guy that manages a mattress shop, and they were both concurring that the amount that of capital that they have in inventory is a fraction of what it was 10 or 15 years ago. They only need a few items in their showrooms and then a really great digital presence. And that's all they need to entice clients to come in. If I'm going to buy a mattress or a bed set, I want to go in, I want to feel the mattress, I want to see the quality of the wood, but I don't need to see every possible option. So that's lean production or lean manufacturing. There's another concept in there I want you to take a look at, which is enterprise risk management. What kinds of risks are businesses exposed to, and how do managerial accountants help you with that? And lastly, the theory of constraints. So those are kind of the three things I want you to extract on your own. In our last little couple minutes here together, let's see, my clock says 10:43. Oh, we've got 7 minutes. I'd like to kind of pull together everything we've talked about and just sort of explain to you what slideshow, current slide, what really these managerial reports do and what piece the management accountant has in a business. So first off, all of you are familiar with what a CPA is, right? What is that? Certified Public Accountant. And what are they generally recognized at specializing in? Taxes is one. Audits, absolutely. And general financial statement preparation. Okay? Certified Public Accountants. And almost all colleges, that's what the focus is on. They want to get you through the CPA exam. It's one of the ways that they show they're doing a great job preparing you for the workplace, blah, 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 blah. But there's another credential called CMA. And I'm actually a CMA as well as a CPA, and I found the CMA test to kick my ass 5 times harder than the CPA did. It's a certified managerial accountant. And this isn't just can you crunch out numbers. It's can you do decision modeling based on the data, which is how you run a business. I mean, I can crunch out numbers and make everything balance until your eyes glaze over. Well, what good is that if everybody just files it in the proverbial desk drawer? I need to look at that data and figure out what's in it to make decisions about expanding or retrenching a product line, changing the cost structure. Maybe I'm going from manual labor to robotics. Maybe I'm bringing something back from offshoring it back to the United States because my customer base now requests, products that are made locally. I mean, and I've got to see that in the numbers. So that's what certified management accountants are required to do, is do decision modeling based on data. And they do a lot of budgets and forecasts as well. It's a same thing, 2.5-day test, and it's promulgated by the Institute of Management Accountants. And if you're at all interested in being a part of a team, that you work with the chief marketing officer, you work with the chief technology officer, you work with the chief R&D officer, you work with the chief of human resources to come together and decide how to manage your business. That's what my husband does. He works with the people that work with the kids. He works with the CEO. He works with the operations manager. And they make decisions how they're going to run the business. So basically, this is what you do. You plan based on the reports. Then you say, okay, well, it looks like, for example, and I'm sure you guys have seen this and felt this being back here, we lost 40% of our staff at the University of Montana last year. So of our 11 long-term administrative assistants here, we lost 4. So what does that do to the people that are here? Now you've got to consolidate. You're taking care of 3 departments instead of 1 or 2. Okay. So then what technically you're supposed to do, and I don't know that we actually do down here, but what you're supposed to do next is say, how well did what we plan, what's the ramifications of it? Is it having the impact that we wanted it to have, right? That's the controlling phase where you say, is what we thought would happen from this, is that happening? And if it's not, how do we make decisions to refurbish that plan and start again? So that's just kind of a really quick and dirty overview of Chapter 1. Take a look at it. And on Wednesday, sharpen your pencils and get your calculators out, because we'll start actually taking a look at cost structures and cost concepts, which is the basis of what we're using for the next 15 weeks. So, thank you and welcome back.
What do you mean by theory of constraints?
what do I mean about the theory of constraints? The theory of constraints is, let me just shut this down.
Intentions